start recording.
Awesome. Hello, welcome everybody. We will introduce our guest, Daelyn, formally in just a few minutes. We're just going to give it another 60 seconds or so for people to come in, and then we will begin. Welcome, welcome. Nicole, I'm loving your purple hair.
Looks good.
I was just going to say the same thing.
Thank you. I just
Mhm.
did it on Monday. I haven't washed it yet, but I took it out of the braids, so I'm liking it better. It was
I think it
blowing
looks
up.
really good on you. Purple
Thank
is tricky,
you.
like to get it right, and then
Yeah,
I think it gets prettier as it fades at first.
totally.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Yeah. Hi, Wesley. Hi, Damien. Hi, Christine. All right. I anticipate a few more people are going to probably come through the door, but we will go ahead and get started and let them in as they do. Thanks for being here for our tea talk today with Daelyn Larché-Sigman, who is a friend of mine, and she is many things, as she will share with us as we go through today. When I first met her, she was the mother of two young boys in elementary school, and she was working as a teacher, and I was dating her brother, and I was a teenager. So that's how long I've known her. Oh, Nicole as well. Nicole is also a Westminster girl, Daelyn. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. Oh yeah, you guys knew each other. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And then Daelyn experienced the worst thing, which is finding out that her son was sick. And I won't share the story because she will, but he died when he was 17. Which is a grief that none of us even want to imagine, right? It's like you think about it and you're like, I'm not even going to go there because it's so big and massive. And a lot of people do have to go there. Lauren shares a statistic that 1 in 10 children will lose a parent before they're 18. This is the opposite direction, but the grief and loss is everywhere. One of the most inconvenient things a student ever said in class. Some of you may have heard me say this before because it still is just like, damn. We were talking about losing children and how it felt like a violation of the order of things or a violation of nature or just the worst thing that somebody could experience. And this student challenged it and she said, that's not true. She goes, that's what we want to believe and that's what feels good to believe. But the truth is that if we look at history and biology and evolution of people, like women used to lose children all the time. They used to lose them during childbirth. They used to have a lot of children with the understanding that they would probably lose some along the way. Litters of baby animals are born, in big groups because they're not all going to survive. And it was just like the most challenging perspective, that she was right, like that you don't really want to believe that maybe is also true. So anyway, Daelyn, I'm sure you're going to share a lot with us. Thank you in advance for your vulnerability. She's also an artist and she had a phase of hot air ballooning. She loves dogs. She likes four-wheeling in the mountains. She's an energy worker. She loves horses, and take it from there. She's got a presentation and we'll have some Q&A and some conversation at the end of her presentation for us.
Before you start, I just wanted to say really quick though, is we did actually work with Daelyn when we had a grief camp about 2 years ago now, is how long I think it's been.
Yeah.
Oh, we've got to see I don't want to say the action, the magic in person. So everything that she's going to be talking to us about, the grief, how she works with grief and the modalities is gotten to see in real life. So I'm really excited that you're here with us today and I'm excited to learn more.
Thank you. How exciting. So I do have some slides that I'm going to share with you in just a minute. Feel free to chime in, ask questions anytime you want to. And I'm going to start in kind of an odd spot in my journey and work my way back and work my way forward. So let me share. There we go. Can you guys see that? Okay, awesome. Oh, now it just covered up. Hold please, now I can't see there it is. Okay, got it. So this was once me, broken beyond measure. This is after a big accident I'll tell you about in a minute, but this pretty much, I chose this picture because it pretty much summed up my life for quite a while and how I was walking through life in grief. So Erin gave you a beautiful explanation of who I am. So I am now a master equine gestaltist, and I'll explain all of that. That's basically the horse healing, helping humans heal that I do. I'm an Unleash Your Strengths coach using the Clifton Strengths Finder, and my newest is angel numerology. So that is exciting. So I started my grief journey, I guess you would say, when I was 19. You know how when you're in the dorms, you have like a dorm room and then that middle shared bathroom part, and then you have your dorm room, kind of that suite. And so my suite mate and her family um, all died except for her youngest sister and her middle sister. They were hit head on by a semi truck the summer before my sophomore year of college. And that changed my world because I had never had a good friend who had died before. So later that year, a few months later, my grandpa, who had cancer, died. And that rocked my world. I was only 19. I didn't know how to deal with grief, and I was a freaking disaster. I was a mess. A couple weeks later, my first grade teacher died, and she was my beloved teacher who I had visited all the time, and she also had cancer. I went to see her in hospice, and I remember her saying to her hospice nurse, "No, don't let her in. I don't want her to see me this way." And somehow I talked the nurse into letting me in so that I could say goodbye. Um, Not very much longer. This all happened in about a 6 month or 4 month time span. Um, One of my residents, because I was an RA at that point, one of my residents disappeared and committed suicide. And she was found the day that I was organizing a search party. And so I got to tell her parents, not sure why I was chosen, but I got to tell her parents. And it, you want to say messed up. That was me. Not very long after that, my sorority sister was killed in a car wreck. So this was all boom, 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 boom. And still 19 years old, didn't know how to cope, was literally looking at the newspaper every day at the announcements to see who I knew who had died. And thankfully, I wasn't finding names that I knew, right? But that's where my brain was. Who do I know today that died yesterday? And that's where I was in my life. A lot of tears. I wanted to quit school. I remember being in the bathtub in my mom's bedroom, probably where the house was that you knew, Erin, and hearing my mom on the phone with my uncle saying, she was crying. She's like, I don't know what to do for her because I was just bawling in the bathtub. And that was what I knew how to cry, right? So fast forward several years. Sorry, my allergies are horrible and my medication hasn't quite set in yet. Fast forward a number of years, and I had lost my son by now, and we'll return to that part of the story. I was back to teaching because I needed the money, and I was a really good teacher. Who says that they're going to go back to teaching because they need the money, right? Just this girl, I think. And I was in a situation where I was not happy. It was really tough. I wasn't being allowed to be my creative spirit anymore. I was having to do a lot of things that go against my values and my strengths, and not being able to be who I was in the classroom, and frankly getting in trouble when I was being my creative self in the classroom, and I was miserable. So there was a day, 2 days in a row, where I had to drive to Golden and back from Highlands Ranch every day. And on one particular spot of the highway, 2 days in a row, I was so mad and so upset. And I was just screaming out loud in my Jeep, if this is all there is in my life, just take me now. Just effing take me in a car wreck and kill me instantly. I don't care. And I was screaming, I lost my son. What else do I have to endure? Why can't I be happy? What is left for me in life? Just kill me now. I didn't want to die. I just didn't know how to be happy, right? And so you can see the result, what happened a week later, 1 week later to the day on that exact same spot of highway, I hit some black ice and veered, tried everything I could going sideways to pull myself out of it. I ended up pulling out from going this way and falling over onto King Carroll and got it kind of worked back around and hit the concrete barrier head on, in which point I flipped up in the air and rolled down the highway like a ball. I think when I could recreate it, I counted, I think 11 times that I had hit and flown up and hit and flown up and hit and flown up and didn't know what I was doing. Probably about the third hit, I had this realization that I was about to die because I had asked for it a week prior. And I quickly said my goodbyes to everybody. I begged for forgiveness because I thought I was rolling on top of people on the other side of the highway and hurting them, and said more goodbyes. It seemed like forever. It was in an instant, right? And came sliding to a stop, hanging on the passenger side in my seatbelt. The emergency guys said that my Jeep was everywhere. It was all over the highway because I wanted to know what it looked like. And they were like, ma'am, your Jeep is all over the highway. I imagine they probably had to close it because you could see the picture. And I wondered, how am I alive? Because I walked out like this. I was not hurt. I had one teeny tiny bruise about the end of my fingertip on my hip bone. I didn't have seatbelt burns. I didn't have anything. I walked out like this. So I know that Austin was with me that day, and I have really, really strong angels on my side. And that's part of how I survive now, is that knowledge of who I have on the other side helping me. So I learned, oh, sorry. Whoa, look at that. I learned recently, somebody told me we have to be careful with our words because words are spells. And I completely understand this now. And this spot is where my Jeep actually landed. You can see the indentations and how hard I came to a stop. I was not on the other side of the highway, thank God. I was in the median, and all I could see was the sky. And the very first thing they did was come and jack my Jeep up so that it didn't roll on top of me, because some men came and pulled me out and I was laying next to it. So fast forward to the next year, about 9 months later, sorry guys, Memorial Day, we went to Grand Junction and I had this hit. Be careful, something's going to happen. Something's not going to go right. But I didn't listen to my intuition. I didn't understand it. And so there was this rock. And this was the rock that could have killed me again. I hit a small rock, hit a boulder, flipped my bike, hit another boulder, and landed on this rock upside down on my back, pinned underneath my dirt bike under this tree, and nobody was there to see it. Nobody knew I was there. And so I had to go revisit this rock. And I have these things in my life that I revisit several times because it helps me to know why I'm here. It helps me remember my purpose of being in this life. And at the time, I thought that I was paralyzed because I was in shock. And I didn't realize that I was in so much pain that I couldn't possibly be paralyzed, right? Just, you just don't know what's going on. And so this was me trying to be cool. And I was like, I ended up breaking my back. And after I got the x-rays and the CT scan and everything, and just a crap ton of drugs because nothing was alleviating the pain. I was like, do I get to say that I am cool because I broke my back now? So I think that I deal with things with a little bit of humor is what helps me. So we'll back up a little bit now, and here comes Austin Jack. And these are pictures that Aaron may remember. So this is the day that Austin was born, February 27th, 1996, and his always smile. Always, always. He was the light of my life. He was the easiest little boy, except that I was on bed rest when I had him. He tried to come 9.5 weeks early. And I always say that the terbutaline, that drug that they gave me to keep him in, um, must have been like a good drug for him because he was the chillest little boy, always, always smiling. And he had all these faces, but they were always smiling. And so in that bottom right corner, you can see some hair starting to happen. And man, this was the I'm happy and I'm cool. Look at my hair kind of thing, you know. His hair was everything. And so just a couple more pictures of the happier times. I was a single mom for 9 years. And so it was me and my boys, Chance and Austin. And man, they loved each other for a really long time until they were teenagers and they didn't anymore. So these are some of the pictures. I've got this top right-hand corner one in my bathroom. And so I see it every single time I walk in. And it's such a beautiful memory. Actually, the friend I thought might come on today, Kelly, we were at lunch with her mom for the first time in probably 15, 20 years. And we took that picture for Kelly because she wasn't able to join us. So what I learned with breaking my back and some other things was trust my intuition. So the boy's dad, by now I was married again to my Mr. Fantastic, magnificent husband, Chris, and the boy's dad had died 6 months earlier. He had a whole bunch of issues, and so they lost him. And one day I knew it was Austin, and he was laying on a white table, draped under a white sheet, being lifted up into white light. And I flipped. I hadn't had nightmares about one of my kids, but usually Austin dying in about 2 years. And I remember saying out loud, what the hell? I haven't had nightmares about him dying for years. What is this? And then I started hearing, use it before you lose it, use it before you lose it, because they were on their dad's health insurance and it was free. And I didn't know how long that was going to last. And nobody could tell me because I wasn't on the account. So I decided that maybe Chance finally needed a referral to, what's it called? A rheumatoid arthritis, juvenile rheumatoid arthritis professional, because we knew that he had had some joint issues and eventually may have arthritis. And then something kept telling me, take Austin. So I ran out of time at lunch that day at school, and something made me leave the insurance card on my desk so that I would remember to call the next day, because I totally have short timers and at school I get busy. And so I called and said, I don't know why, but we need to come see the doctor. We might need an acne specialist and a rheumatoid arthritis specialist. Turned out Chance was fine. We got referrals for both. We came out, Austin said, I have questions and you need to leave. And he had just turned 14. And I was like, you little, in my head, you little shit, what are you doing? So they came out about 5 minutes later. And after I was like literally at the door like this, trying not to get caught by anybody, and then I'd run back to the waiting room, the doctor came out and said, we've got a problem. You guys need to go right now for an ultrasound. And we went back and forth. We eventually did go to the hospital, but it was going to take hours. They didn't have a radiologist there. So I called. She said, I said, they want to admit us. And she said, if it was my child, we'd be admitted. But it's getting late. Go ahead, go home, get some sleep. go back to the hospital early in the morning. I think you're going to have a long day. And we went to a different hospital the next morning, which I'm so grateful that we did. They sent us, I think we were there about 3 hours, and they sent us to Presbyterian St. Luke's Rocky Mountain Hospital for Children. And so I like to say we went in for acne and we came out with stage 4 cancer. So he had alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma, stage 4, because it had spread. And his tumors, I hadn't seen anything. We think they had grown for about a month and a half. And he had a baseball tumor. So you know what it looks like when you're pregnant? It looks like you have a basketball in your stomach, right? He had a baseball in his groin and another one in his bottom. And he said he was about to tell us because it was starting to hurt sitting on the desks at school. But then I told him we had a doctor's appointment, and so he wanted to show the doctor. And I was floored. So you can see this picture on the left was our last like family get together, pretty much before he was diagnosed with cancer. And you can tell he was proud of his hair. And then this happened to be a pretty healthy looking picture without his hair. He got really super skinny and then really bloated on the steroids. And one of the things I wish that I would have asked him, I don't have many regrets, but one that I do have is I wish I would have asked if it hurt, like expanding and decreasing like that. So we had a lot of really cool visitors. And then the bottom picture is in the bone marrow transplant unit. So we were there for 44 days. It was our last hope. It was not proven. It had worked for one rhabdomyo kiddo, but nobody else. So he agreed that he would try. And we did that. And the transplant was a success. But they sent us home at 44 days because they knew that the cancer had come back and had invaded all of his new bone marrow and was all the way through his body. So they sent us home on hospice. But meanwhile, we had some really amazing things happen. And those are the things that I really do work to focus on. So yes, that's the Dalai Lama. We got sent to Washington, D.C., and we're able to spend some time with him, which was a dream come true. And I have pictures of him in Austin. And before I ever imagined that I would have horses, Austin and I had an opportunity to go horseback riding with a friend on her horses while she walked down the road. And then came March 12th, 2013. So it's been 11 years now. And worst day of my entire life, you know. The thing I struggle with most, and I've done many pieces of Gestalt work, was watching him die in his bed in my lap. And that is something that I will never be able to get out of my head, you know. And I was broken, very, very broken, on a lot of Xanax because I couldn't cope otherwise. This was the day after he died. And we got this special visitor, and we all believed that this visitor was from heaven, and it was this black cat. And he came like storming in. Everybody heard him coming, but we couldn't see him. And he had this roar about him. And before long, we could see him walking down the fence. And he went right to the center of our fence, hopped down into our backyard, and came up and laid in my lap. And that's one of my chihuahuas, Lily. And eventually she jumped up, not a care in the world. She sat there as happy as could be next to this black cat. And we stayed like that for a really long time. The black cat's name was Scout. Austin wanted to be a sniper, special forces in the Army. The cat had a mangled ear, which we now know is because he had like a tumorous growth on his ear. And so it was partly mangled and gone. and he had a bright royal purple collar, and royal purple was Austin's favorite color. And Austin and I had talks that I needed him to come back. I needed signs, which I do still get all the time. And he said, well, I'm not going to come back as any stupid butterfly, because that's my grandma. She comes back as butterflies. And I said, fine, come back as something badass then. Just let me know it's you. And so that was Scout. And he did come back many times. We had no idea who he belonged to or where he came from. We did call the owner because it said, don't worry, I love to visit. His little tag said, I love to go out on visits. I go home. Well, unbeknownst to us, after about the first year, he actually lived in the house kitty corner behind us, and we didn't know it. We'd never seen him. We had no idea. So, yeah, okay. I've lived through a lot. I've learned some really hard lessons, like I matter. Things happen for a reason. Listen to my intuition. But Aaron asked me to talk about how I dealt with the grief, and how I got past it. And obviously, one of the ways I dealt with it was screaming at God. Didn't have a relationship with God, but figured I was pissed off enough at that point. I never really got pissed off about losing Austin. It was more my life. Like, why can't I be happy? So I started to think about it, and here's Kelly. I'm going to admit her. So I started thinking about it, and what I realized was when we were in the hospital for up to 23 to 44 days at a time, because Austin had, let me back up, he had 35, he was supposed to have 35 rounds of chemo. His body could only handle 30. Sometimes it was like an hour injection. Sometimes it was 5 days in a row, 24/7 in the hospital, which ultimately, his counts would drop so low it wasn't safe to come home. So we might be there for 8 to 12 days at a time. And I was there with him the whole time. So Chance pretty much raised himself when he was 16 through 18 years old, 16 to 19. And I realized okay, back up. I got all excited that Kelly got here, sorry. So he also had 28 days of radiation every day, which was the max radiation. Later, he had 5 days of CyberKnife. Again, he had 3 more days of CyberKnife. His appendix ruptured and just disintegrated when they took it out. The surgeon said it was the worst she had ever seen. His gallbladder disintegrated. When she took it out, he had to have another surgery. She said it was the worst gallbladder she had ever seen. So Austin liked to do things big, right? Go big or go home. But what I found was doing for others through all of those times in the hospital. We started Wings of Hope, which was our first nonprofit, because when we got sent to the hospital, we were there for 3 days and didn't know we were going to be there. So I literally only had the clothes on my body. And luckily we weren't too far away, so Chris could bring me, some pajamas. I slept in my clothes the first night. The second night I had pajamas and a toothbrush and stuff. But we raised money by making and selling bracelets and having bracelet parties. And so I manifested this. This is when I learned about manifestation. I was like, I want to make $100. That was so easy, silly. So I don't remember how many thousands of dollars we raised or how many bags we gave, but we were able to give moms like me, who ended up at the hospital as emergency, a whole big duffel bag full of everything they needed for their stay when they were transported, mostly by air, and didn't bring anything. And so I spent a lot of time getting that together. I learned about energy work and spirituality through a beautifully wonderful woman who I'm still in touch with now. And she was my massage therapist, my Reiki master, my intuitive coach. And she helped me understand why I'm here and that I have a soul contract with all of the people in my world. And so my soul contract with Austin was I would be his mom and help him get through this childhood illness, the worst of the worst, with really no hope of healing. And I too would learn through that. And he would experience whatever it was he experienced in a short life, and I would learn how to help people. And then we had Rolling Dreams. This is the car we gave him. This was our next nonprofit. And we raised so much money, $100,000 easily to help teens with cancer. And just a little bit about that. We did a lot of car shows. I always say that we had a lot of experiences that normal people don't get. So Austin wanted a white tuxedo at an event that I was speaking at, and he was given that. And this was a trip, the right-hand corner, I forget, you guys can't see my arrow. We got to go stay at Tony Stewart's house, the NASCAR driver, and he had a hunting experience. We were on TV a lot, and that in itself was a growing journey. I manifested Blossom, my Great Dane, and then Tucker when I lost Blossom a few years ago. And in the hospital, I did crafts, and more crafts. And so now I do, my happy time is my farmer's market time. So, and I made cards. My mom and I would sit, and I learned how to stamp cards and color, and we would give them to all of the parents on the floor. And so doing for others really helped me heal. And finally, why we're really here is the Gestalt. So, but I thought it was really important to know that big, long background story about everything to make the Gestalt like really impactful for you. So 4 years after Austin died, finally somebody wanted me to have a Gestalt session, not a clue what that was, and had my first session with the horses, grief session, snot, crying, bubbled nose, you know, you can picture it, just snot in the sand next to this beautiful horse who held such space for me. And at the end of that session, I was debriefing with my coach, Devin, and her horse Detail started dancing, literally doing the cha-cha. She put her right foot forward and stomped, and then went backwards, and then forwards, and then backwards. And I started giggling, wiping my tears away. I'm like, what is she doing? And Devin said, what do you think she's doing? I said, well, obviously she's cha-chaing. That horse was so happy that I had let go of some of my grief for the first time in 4 years. So my next sessions were all around, could I do this? Could a city girl learn how to do this? A teacher, a broken teacher. So I got my first horse, Rembrandt, and then came Shayla, and then came Echo. I only had Rembrandt for 5.5 months. He colicked. Still have Shayla, and I lost Echo in December to a neurological issue. But now I have Mr. Blue Diamond Sparkle Farts, and he's 11 months old, and that is his personality right there, and he will be a therapy mini. Although right now he's kind of an asshole, but he's cute. So equine Gestalt. Gestalt is based in psychotherapy, and it's a German word that loosely translated means journey to wholeness. So we're taking the client through a journey to wholeness and finishing their unfinished business from the past. So this is beautiful Colette, who had done several pieces of work with me, and the horses had her framed and were giving her energy from both sides. They were supporting her fully in her grief. So horses want us to be happy. Like, they don't sit around and go, did you hear what he said to me last week? I can't believe she made fun of my butt, you know, whatever it is. Horses don't do that. They want us to be beautifully happy and live in present moment, just like they do. So it's when we are in present moment that horses will stay with us and choose to work with us, and they'll give us an energy release. They'll horse around with us. If we're not in congruence in our body, mind, and spirit, they won't choose to stay and work with us. So as a coach, I get you to a spot, hopefully, ideally, where you're grounded and you're able to tell your story in a way that the horse feels that energy and they choose to participate. So people will ask, how did you train Shayla to do this? I didn't. Horses are the world's natural healers. They are the earth's natural Reiki masters. They don't need the energy work that we do because they know how to help themselves, and they want us to learn how to help ourselves. And they will do that for us when we respect them and bring our stories through our hearts and our soul, and we are congruent. If we are telling a horse a story, the client tells me a story that they think I want to hear, or, we're working on a background piece, trying to clear something up from their background, and they're not in congruence because they're afraid to tell the truth, or, they're not coming from their heart space. The horse turns around and walks away. So Echo was the most beautiful chakra worker. I'm a little lost without her still. But just like people, horses have chakras, and she would line herself up, her body up, and give me cues about what was going on in the human based on their chakras. And it was beautiful. It was beautiful to witness. It was beautiful to be a piece of. And if we are in congruence, like this middle picture, every now and then, oh, it cut some of it off. Sorry. You'll get to bend down and be with the horses. Otherwise, they'll get up because they won't feel safe and they'll walk away. Because they are prey animals, they have to know that they're safe always. And then every once in a while, everyone needs a teddy bear. So this was a beautiful piece of work I was doing with a client. And you can see that whatever she said in that moment caught Echo's attention. And Echo lifted up her head and noticed what was going on, and eventually came over to help this woman heal. It was really beautiful. And so this is what I do. I am a firm believer in we have a choice to heal. We have a choice to be happy. We have a choice to learn who we are and what makes us tick. And did I mention we have a choice to be happy? So this is a sign that hangs on also on my bathroom wall right next to the picture of me and Chance in Austin. And choose your attitude. I'm a huge believer. And so there are days where my grief hits. We always used to call it a tidal wave, my tsunami. And I can feel in Gestalt, we really pay attention to the body somatics, those feelings in your body. And so I now am able to discover and pay attention to what's happening and where that sadness is coming from. And I can tell Chris, my husband, it's coming, and it's usually like, okay, it's coming. And now, 11 years later, I'm to a point where I can choose. I know I need 5 minutes to cry. My body needs to release this. Preferably, if I can be out with my horses, like on his angel day, then I'm out with the horses and they're surrounding me and honoring me with their heads down low and giving me everything, all the healing energy I need. And then I say, okay, I'm okay now. I can go on with my day. And it's a choice. If I'm not feeling that strong that day, it's going to be longer than 5 minutes. And I may not have enough oomph to go out with the horses. And I cry and cry. I go in his bedroom and I bawl and I talk to him because his bedroom 11 years later still looks pretty much the same. I have gotten rid of a lot of his stuff, but there's a lot in there still. And it's a choice, right? And so this is me now. Far cry from that broken, broken girl. And I really owe it to learning about my intuition, learning about how to manifest, learning about what I believe spiritually and about soul contracts, because that's how I make sense of losing my son, and then service to others. And Gestalt. I've done so many pieces of personal work in my training. over 4 years that I can't help but not feel happier. I know Austin's in a good place and he visits me and he brings me gifts. And, when I'm feeling down, I talk to him and he always manages to bring me gifts. So, and did I have anything else? Nope, that was it. Yeah, so that was a lot. Yeah,
Thank
questions,
you.
Erin.
That was so good. I cried like the whole time, which I didn't expect, but I needed. So thank you for giving me the opportunity to do that. You're right. It's like, I think there's a long period of time where happiness isn't a choice, where you can't reach it, where there's too much grief, it's too fresh or in shock, you haven't worked through enough. But I really do think there comes a time where it becomes a choice, and you have really modeled that with a lot of grace. So thank you for sharing that story. It inspires me in my own grief, which recognize as really raw still. So I'm like,
It
wow,
is.
yeah. Um,
And
so
I do, like I said, there are days where I don't think it's a choice, especially when it's fresh. It wasn't a choice for me at 4 years. It wasn't a choice for me at 5 years. I think it became a choice after I started healing through the Gestalt with the horses, and things began to make sense for me. But
so
it
in
was a
theory, you
while.
say, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, continue.
So it was a while. So
Yeah. You say that you don't train the horses, that they're just natural energy workers. You could kind of work with any horses? Like
any horses.
how do you know what horse is a good horse for this? Any horse?
So the horses need, and actually this is good for Kelly because she has 2 horses and has been asking, she would like to start some therapy with horses, on her ranch. And so you need to know that they have a really good temperament. Horses have a temperament from 1 to 10. 1 is like bomb proof. You can put a baby on the back. It can be hailing. They're not going to flinch. And 10 is like buck and bronco, you
Yeah.
know. So when you're looking for a horse, you want to make sure that it's bomb proof. It's got really beautiful ground manners. It's not going to be aggressive to a human. It's polite. And that's usually a trained horse, but that has the good ground manners. They're not what you would call green, or we don't work with horses until they're 5 years old. So they're matured enough, they're grown. Um, so when I'm working with Blue, Sparkle Farts, my little, when I said his little asshole right now, um, he's not ready to see clients, but to continue his socialization, I do bring people in all the time. But right now, what we work on most is it's not okay to bite people. It's not okay to bite people. And he has 8 teeth is all, 4 little ones at the
So
bottom. And
it's
but
just
so
a
he just
nibble.
It's always
nibbles.
those little ones. It's the little guys that have to feel like they gotta bite you and say, hey.
Yeah. But I think his little balls are dropping and it's time for him to get castrated. So I think his testosterone is coming in and he's like, look at me, I can bite. Um, so yeah, but that's the biggest part is you want a horse with a good temperament who has beautiful ground manners. So they're respectful, they have boundaries, they're not up in a person's face because people get afraid when a horse is like, you
Yeah.
know. So the other thing we don't do is we don't scratch my horses' butts, because if you know anything about horses, you probably know that they love to have their butts
Yeah,
scratched.
it's like a cat.
Um,
It's just like
like
erogenous.
a cat or a dog, right? But my horses and other horses that do healing work, if you're aware enough to understand the energy and what they're doing, they will literally turn their body around and take very careful steps backwards and almost touch the human with their butt. And we've all been told, don't stand behind a horse.
Right.
So, then it's my job as the coach to make sure that the client understands they're not trying to hurt you. They're doing root chakra work on you. They're giving you root energy. And
Wow.
just stay there. Don't touch the horse. Shayla doesn't want to be touched when she's working. And she's very particular about the type of work she does. She wants to do the creative stuff, not the chakra stuff. Any horse can do that.
So you do think that they're aware of it. It's not just subconsciously happening for them too.
They are very aware of it. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I believe, and Melissa Pierce, my teacher with Touch by a Horse, believes that horses have chosen to stay on this planet for as long as they have because they want humans to live like they do. They want us to live in the moment. They don't want us to hold on to all the crap. And they know that we need a lot of healing. Humans have a lot of stuff, and they are magnificent, magical healers, and they're here to help us. And that's, even though we've put them through so much, right, on this planet, they want to be here to help us. So, and I do know the horses that get lucky enough to do healing work are so appreciative, and they will show you that the picture, I don't know how to get back in my my slide, but it was a picture of a woman and the horse was like, and so we call that leeching.
Mm,
So they know that the energy that they take from us is not theirs to keep. They
mm,
know the difference. They can distinguish between our energy and their energy, and it's not theirs to keep. But they don't want us to hold on to it either because they can feel that it's not bringing us joy.
yeah.
They can feel that it's bringing us pain. So they do whatever it is they do inside of their system and they take it in, which helps us feel lighter. And then they do this yawn. Almost it looks like they're going to throw up, but horses don't have the capability to throw up. And their jaw kind of cocks to the side and they let all this energy out.
Amazing.
And they'll do it once, twice, 5 times. Um, the other cool thing is that I was taught if a horse will lick your hand, then they know that you are a healer. So take that for what you will. But
Yeah, I think that's so beautiful, so generous. So many animals and species and plants really are here in service to the
absolutely.
ecosystem, and to the whole. And if
Yeah,
humans could get on board with that, we'd probably be doing a little better.
we sure would. But the Gestalt is beautiful. I don't know, obviously I experienced such tremendous growth and healing that I chose to do it as a profession. I left my teaching career of 25 years and now I've been a coach for 5 years and did the first 2 years. It's a 2-year intensive program. It was every bit as intense as getting my master's degree. And then I practiced for a year and then I did the next 2-year program, which is the master program without the horses. So I have a studio now that I can see clients if they don't want to be with horses, which what? But yeah, I do a lot of art and take my dog so that we still have an animal. So he's very intuitive and sits in people's laps, much like Echo would back her butt up. Tucker will back up and sit in their lap and give them energy. So yeah.
It's really sweet.
I was going to ask, who do you think, well, other than saying like everyone, who do you think would benefit from this kind of therapy? Are there any certain kind of traumas or people who you specifically think could really benefit from this?
So Gestalt is proven to be the #1 method for healing trauma. And it doesn't matter what kind of trauma. It's really good, especially the horse Gestalt with horses is really phenomenal for soldiers, veterans with PTSD. It helped me. I was an experiment for my teacher. I was the second person she tried a certain method of Gestalt on because of my rollover. I had such horrendous PTSD and healed my PTSD. So I still have some flashbacks when the car is getting hailed on. I've had that happen to me twice just because the noise is so loud. But otherwise, I can drive in the snow again. I can drive in the rain. And I couldn't, like literally couldn't. When you turn, let's see, when you turn left, you lean a little bit to the right. And I rolled to the right. So for the first couple of years, I couldn't be in a passenger seat and turn left without just bawling because I was living the rolling again. And Melissa's thrilled that she's been able to do this type of work with 5 of us, I think now, and it's 100% effective. So, yeah, but grief, it's tremendous for grief. You leave your tears in the sand and you walk away feeling lighter. Um, I do like to caveat after I've worked with enough grief clients now, I don't feel like it takes it all away. I mean, that would be silly to say, right? Do this one time and you're healed, your grief is gone. No, I mean, I did probably 6 or 7 sessions throughout my training, and there are days where I feel like I need a session, but it's nothing like it used to be. You know, the pain isn't stabbing me in the heart every minute of every day. So, yeah.
It's amazing. Well, I'm gonna sign up.
I hope you do.
Now I remember, I was like, this is why we did it. Okay, yeah, we need to have some more grief therapy work out there with you because
Yes.
it's such a
Yeah, it's hard. It
Yeah.
really is hard because you need to understand that the more you're able to open up your heart, right?
Yeah.
Which hurts, but the more healing you're going to get.
It's easier to open it up to horses than people, though, right? Like that's a nice, safe, like talk about a good doula, horse.
Right?
God.
Exactly. Yeah, and
So,
we call it grading. So think of a thermometer, like, the low temperature. So we have low grading, which is like not scary work at all. Like you're just, you don't really have to open up. You're going to spend time with the horse and you're going to experience the horse. And I might ask you some questions, but it's not scary, you know, up to like anger releases where you're just beating the crap out of a cube and screaming. And, that's way up here because that takes a lot of trust and,
um,
um, belief in your healing process and then everything in between. So, and we don't do the banging next to the horses, by the
I was
way.
gonna say
That's
probably
what I
they don't
was just
like
going
that.
to
They
say.
probably
We
don't
let
like
people that kind of space. Like
No,
banging.
we never ever direct any of the anger work in the horse's direction because they don't understand. They don't know what that is, and we don't want the horses to feel that energy because they don't need to,
Yeah.
right? So the
So,
horses who feel that are abused horses.
yeah, yeah. I hate that. I feel like I don't fully understand what Gestalt is outside of horses. So how do you practice it without an animal, or is an animal's not required, right? I mean,
Nope.
it's a form of energy work.
So the Gestalt is actually how we guide you through finishing your unfinished business. With the horses, we get the benefit, the bow on top with the cherry and everything. They're the cherry on top. But there are it's all experiential. So if you come and you've got something that, see, I don't want to use that just in case. Let's say somebody said something to you. Your dad was an alcoholic and said things to you all the time when you were a child. And then you grew up, and all of a sudden you have a boss who's yelling at you, but hasn't really yelled at you, just kind of raised their voice, and you have a big, huge overreaction. Well, the trigger, the memory was your dad saying all those things to you because he was an alcoholic when you were a child, but you were too scared to be able to talk back, nor were you allowed to talk back. So we would do what's called an experiment. I like to call it an experience where we'll set that up and you kind of go into your inner self, that you become that little child again, but you get to talk back to your dad's energy and say the things that you wish you could have said or done the things you wish you could have done, and you get that out of your body because the body holds on to the trauma. So it's all about getting that out and not carrying that energy anymore. And I mean, it's so wide open, the things that we can set up as experiments that will help you heal.
That's
So it's really
beautiful.
hard to teach and explain and baby bites. So,
You did a good job of explaining it. Thank you. Thank you. All
yeah.
right, guys, we just have a few minutes left. Does anyone else have any questions or just responses for Daelyn?
When I would go back in the chat, I saw a few things in there. Oh, what were the words you heard today? You said this is the second time I've heard these words today. I'm
Oh,
looking at the
Oh,
chat.
that words are spells. That words are
Oh,
spells.
gotcha. Yes, and Nicole, intentional with words, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and yes, cursing
Right.
yourself and blessing yourself. Exactly.
Yeah. How often do we curse ourselves? Like, really? Like, geez, no.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, and the doctor got to see the tumors, Nicole. I had not seen them, but he showed the doctor the tumors, the bumps, and so she came out right away. Yeah.
How long had he been worried about it?
He said he wasn't ever worried. And but he thought he noticed them right about his birthday, which was a month and a half prior. So they grew really fast. And rhabdomyosarcoma is a fingering tumors. So they fingered and wrapped around his rectum. And so they're non-operable because they just finger so much. And it would have left him on a colostomy and everything for the rest of his life, and we didn't want to do that. So yeah,
So hard.
yeah. But I always say I mean, so positivity is my number one in the Clifton Strengths Finder. And so I always tell people we got magnificent experiences that normal people, I would never have experienced in my lifetime.
You
So
did.
yeah, including going to Rome for his Make-A-Wish. So
Good. Well, I wish we had more time. I would love to ask you what Austin's experience of reconciling his mortality was like, because that's such a big thing for a young person to have to do.
yes. Hold
Yeah.
on. Alveolar rhabdomyosarcoma. There you go.
Yeah. That's a lot of word. That is a lot.
It took us a while to learn how to spell it. His, I will leave you with this. I mean, his Chevelle is a whole other story. We were on the news a lot with that, and that's how we raised so much money um, for our nonprofit that we actually dissolved about a year ago. I decided 10 years I had done what I set out to do, and it was time to do something different, which was to focus on my business and helping people heal. Um, where was I going with that? Squirrel.
We were going with how
Oh,
Austin
okay. Thank
metabolized
you.
it. Yeah.
So I think the way he coped with it was he thought he was really, really smart, and he and I would have like these existential, spiritual conversations about his beliefs and stuff, and it was really cool. Um, and he wanted to meet the Dalai Lama. That's how I got it to happen.
Really
But
cool.
we really think that he did it for me because it was my dream. But lastly, I think it was when he started realizing probably that he was not going to live, he drew his crypt, which is so weird. And it was like under a pyramid, and it had all these tunnels and the doorway that was magical, and only he could get through. And
Wow.
eventually I could get through because, and so it was cool, but weird. But I think that's how
His
that
Yeah.
was him
healing.
coming to terms. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Created it externally almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Thank you.
thank
Whoosh. It's a
you.
powerful hour of listening. Thank you. Thank you again, Daelyn. You have a lot to teach us, and it was a really vulnerable share, which can be a hard thing to do. How can everybody reach you? Would you please put all of your information in the chat, and maybe say it too for the people who watch the recording, because the chat's not a part of the recording.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. So it's Daelyn, Dae, D as in dog, Daelyn at joyfulspiritcoaching.com.
Okay.
Thank you.
Daelyn at joyfulspiritcoaching.com and Joyful Spirit Coaching on social media.
I think it's a joyful I
A
shouldn't.
joyful spirit.
I think
Yeah.
it's a joyful spirit. Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
So
All right. Well, thank you again for your time and for sharing with our students here. And thank you guys for coming.
thank you so much, you guys, for having me. And I know I talked a lot. I'm a high extrovert, and extroverts process with their words.
Yeah, no, I love it. I wish we had more time. It always feels awkward when we get to the hour and we're like, well, we have to honor the time and
Well, we
go.
gotta go.
There's so, yeah, this has been
Yeah, but you guys have my email. If you have any questions, feel free to email me. I'm pretty good with emails. So yeah.
awesome.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Daelyn.
Good to see you, Lauren and Aaron. Thank you.
You too. We'll see everybody again next month.
Next
Sounds
month.
good.